What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be talking about Jest and how you can use that with NextJS. In this video I'm going to be covering how you can mock your API calls and check to make sure the data that is returned is what is expected. So if this sounds like something that interests you, stick around as we dig into Jest. So here we are in a really basic application. What this application does is it feeds in markdown files and creates a blog. And it has two pieces, right? So it has the markdown file here, title excerpt, etc., and then the data. And what we do is we have this API functionality here that actually grabs the data. So in a couple of ways, we have get all posts, which means we'll get everything that is available. And then we also have one that's get by post by slug, or by slugs, depending on how many you actually need. So what we're going to do is we're going to mock up a test for get post by slug and also get all posts. And what we're going to do is check that there's actually something in there. And then for our post here, we're actually going to make sure that the slug title that we request actually matches what is returned. So two really easy tests, but it gives you an idea of how to set up Jest with Next.js and also how to mock some of these API requests. So the first thing that we need to do is install Jest and Babel Jest as well. And once we have those, we can actually start setting things up. So to do that, you just do npm install Jest and then Babel-Jest. And then we want to save these to our dev dependencies and not to our regular dependencies, because we're only going to need these when we're in development mode and not when we've deployed this out. So once these have installed, I'll check back with you and we can talk about how to set this up correctly. Okay, so you've now installed Babel and also Jest. We need to actually tell the scripts first in the package JSON what to do when we want to test something. So you just write the word test and then do Jest. And then make sure that you add a comma here so that this object is correct. So now we have that. We also need to do a Babel RC file that tells it what style we're going to use. So you just type in Babel RC and then you can do presets and we can tell it we want to use the next/Babel. Now the cool thing is here, this is not only allows you to mock up, say, API tests, you can also mock up the ability to test if something on a page actually exists. And I do encourage you to try that out. But just in this example, we're just going to test if this API in the lib folder actually does what we expect it and the functions work as expected. So now we have all of this, we can create a new folder here called tests. And inside of here, we're going to create one file first. And we're going to call it get all posts.test.js. Now this tells essentially Jest that, hey, anything in this folder, if it has this structure, get all posts, and then say star.test. So anything that has .test is something that should be tested. So now we can go ahead and actually test this. So first we need to import what we want to test. In our version, it's get all posts, and that's going to come from the lib API folder. Then once you've done that, we can use this in this function to actually test the functionality and make sure it works as expected. So first we need to actually describe so that other people understand what this is for. So we'll do check, we get all posts from our blog. Then we need to create a function here, and inside of that function, we're going to describe the actual test. So this is one test, so test, check if we have any posts. So we're going to actually check to see if we have any posts. And we're just going to do an async function here. And we're going to say const posts. So we're going to start using this function here. So we're going to say const posts equals await get all posts. And then we're going to pass in some fields that we want returned. So we'll do title, we'll do slug, and we'll do date. So we're going to return 3 fields here. And then we're going to tell Jest what to expect to happen once we actually do this. So you can write the word expect here and then say posts.length. So the length of the post should always be greater than 0. That means that we've got something back. And then we say dot to be truthy. And this essentially says we expect this to be true. So now we're ready to test this. All we need to do is make a call to this test. So let's go ahead and do that. Terminal run and then npm test. And we should get a run, and the test suite says 1 pass, 1 total, and it took 1 second. So now we know that this part is actually working as expected. But a more difficult test would be, let's actually pass in a slug and make sure that that is actually returned from the API. So let's create a new test here. And we're just going to call this one get post.test.js. And inside of here, we're going to import another functionality from the API that we have. And we're going to say get post by slug. And it's coming from the same folder. And we're going to put a const here, and we're going to say slug equals, and we'll pick a slug from this post folder. So we'll use hello world. So hello-world. Then we can describe this test and say check if hello world is returned. And then we can do the same function as before. And then we can say test checks if we get the correct post. And then we can just say an async function here. And then we can say const post equals await get post by slug. And then a slug, which is this constant here. And then we'll ask for, let's say, the title and the slug, because we're going to check to see if that is the exact slug that's being returned. And we'll also ask for the date. So what we can do now, outside of here, is say expect posts.slug. So inside of here, we're going to get this field here and say we expect this to equal hello world. And again, we can just set this to be truthy. And then if that is true, we can then have a successful test. And if it's false, it will fail. So let's go ahead and run these tests again. And now we should get 2 successful tests. And then I'm going to show you what happens when one fails. Okay, so we got 2 tests that were successful. So let's change this to just James and see what happens. Okay, so we got an error, and it says test suites 1 failed, 1 passed, 2 total. And you can see here that the failed test actually tells us what happens. It said check if hello world is returned, and then it says checked if we get the correct post, because that's the description and then the single test that we are running. And it says expected received to be truthy, but received was actually false. So you could go in here and be like, oh, yeah, this definitely isn't what it should be. It should be this. And then we can hit save and then rerun our tests, and hopefully we'll get a successful test. So that's just a small snippet about testing with NextJS and mocking up API calls. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop it a like, make sure to subscribe in the future, and of course, tell all your friends. In upcoming videos, we're going to take a look at how to create a full stack application. So you definitely want to be subscribed for that. And until next time, see ya.